Hello, I'm Simon Adebisi and welcome to highlights of the 2012 Formula SimRacing World Championship. Round 11 is the German Grand Prix. Set around the Nürburgring, this track is one of the shortest on the calendar and features an interesting array of corners. The opening turn is incredibly tight, as is the immediately following arena section. However, the track then opens out to predominantly moderate speed turns. The opening corner and the chicane in the final sector present the most obvious places for overtaking, with minimal opportunities occurring elsewhere. Defending champion Bono Huis crucially took pole position at his team's home Grand Prix, edging out main rival Morgan Moran for the top spot. Precision's second driver, Jack Keithley, took third place ahead of GT Amiga's Jeffrey Rietveld. Gogo Baldi continued his strong form to take fifth, and in his maiden WC event, Tommy Nilsson set the sixth fastest time, completing a good result for GT Amiga. Yannick Lapchan had a good session, taking 7th place. Patrick de Wit got his MacCore car up into 8th, and in his second appearance in the WC this season, Mark Albert set the 9th fastest time. Twister's Peter Burlack rounded out the top 10. Jim Paresis just missed out on Q2, starting in 11th place. John-Eric Saxon had an average session to take 12th, and making his second appearance, Antonio Coloretz qualified in 13th for MacCore Racing. AT Racing's Sebastiano Velosa would start from 14th, and Australia's Blair Disley qualified in 15th position. Off the start line, it was Morgan Moran who had a brilliant launch, easily getting alongside Huis and taking the lead after just a few seconds. However, it was Huis who proved to be more brave under braking, and he amazingly retook his first position around the outside. Further behind, Burlack came together with de Wit, resulting in both Paresis and Coloretz losing their front wings as they were caught up in the congestion. Snaking their way through the arena section, Lapchan and Nilsson were side by side when Alberts made an over-optimistic move up the inside, bumping Lapchan off the circuit. Moran challenged Huis again into turn 5, but Huis stood his ground, with Keithley taking half a look up Moran's inside. Lap 2, and there was no change to the running order of the top 6 drivers. In 7th place, Mark Alberts had a slide out of turn 4, nearly losing control and dropping down behind Patrick de Wit. Meanwhile, Yannick Lapchan moved back up into 10th position, passing Peter Burlack through the opening corner. As the race progressed, it became apparent that overtaking was nigh on impossible around the Nürburgring, with no overtaking occurring until lap 5. Desperately trying to repass de Wit, Mark Alberts missed his braking point, narrowly avoiding a heavy collision and dropping a place to Saxon. Alberts rejoined the track, and he and Lapchan made contact through turn 11, with Alberts making another mistake on the exit, costing him and Lapchan more valuable time. Several laps later, the Ash Racing driver ran wide through turn 1, dropping in behind both Lapchan and Burlack. By the time the first round of stops began, Bono Huis had only established less than a 2-second lead over Morgan Moran. Jack Keithley was in 3rd ahead of Jeffrey Rietveld in 4th and Gogo Baldi in 5th. Tommy Nilsson was making a good impression in 6th place, and Patrick de Wit was in 7th, though it was clear that 8th place John-Eric Saxon had the faster pace, but was unable to find a way around. Lapchan and Jack Keithley made a surprisingly early stop for what was apparently a 5-stop strategy. Peter Burlack also pitted early to repair damage he suffered in the opening lap. The Twister driver lost several seconds under repair and would still have to drive with a slightly damaged car. The top 4 drivers then all pitted simultaneously, with all on a 4-stop strategy. However, on exit, Jack Keithley was able to just leap ahead of Moran, separating him from Bono Huis. Moran quickly attacked Keithley into turn 11, but he was unable to make the move stick. The Go-Speed driver was clearly faster, but was held up by Keithley, with the Precision driver defending his position hard as Huis escaped further ahead. Eventually, Moran outwitted Keithley through the chicane, slipping up the Briton's inside, but Keithley came back at the Frenchman, and down into turn 1 the pair made moderate contact, with Moran dropping back into 3rd place. Elsewhere on track, Patrick de Wit revealed himself to be only 3 stopping, and he emerged on track in 8th place, though he had a strong chance of outdoing 4-stopping John-Eric Saxon in 7th. Just behind de Wit, Yannick Lapchan had a day to forget as the ATR driver lost control out of the forward curve, sliding onto the grass where the Frenchman stalled his engine. Peter Varga was now up into 10th place from the back of the grid, and after a difficult start, Peter Burlack was on an amazing charge up through the field, first taking Giuseppe Marconi, then Michael Francesconi down the main straight, Blair Disley into the Ford curve, and then Uros Musculi with a difficult outside pass around turn 1, moving the Croatian way up into 11th position. Back at the front, and as Bono Huis sailed away with the race lead, Morgan Moran was still fighting to find his way around Jack Keithley, but with the German circuit offering next to nothing in the way of overtaking opportunities, it was only when the Briton finally pitted that Moran was able to set his full pace. But by now, Huis already had over a 7-second gap over his rival. The second set of stops for the four stoppers again put Moran back behind Jack Keithley, and just as with the first stint, Moran lost more time as he was unable to find any opportunity to make a pass, and the Frenchman had to wait a frustrating 5 laps until Keithley pitted again. Just behind, Jeffrey Rietveld remained in 4th, and the 3-stopping Patrick de Wit was now temporarily up into 5th, having yet to make his second stop. He was soon caught by Gergo Baldi, and the two entered into the arena section side by side. Baldi then switched to the inside of the track to try and get a better line, but de Wit stuck to his guns and drove smoothly on the outside. Again, Baldi switched to the inside, and with a much better run out of the corner, the Netrex driver was able to make the pass on the straight just before turn 5. Further behind, Burlak continued to move up the order, leapfrogging Peter Varga for 10th, and meanwhile things got worse for ATR as Uros Musculi's pit limiter malfunctioned and he was handed a stop-go penalty. Tommy Nelson also suffered a disaster in pit lane as he failed to engage his limiter properly, and he too was given a stop-go penalty, dropping the Swede well out of the points. Once again at the front, it looked like Keithley would just get ahead of Moran, though this time it would be a much closer affair. Moran exited pit lane as Keithley came down the main straight, and as Moran took the wide line, Keithley switched to the inside and just managed to get out in front. As with before, Moran had no chance to get around the precision driver, with the dirty air causing too much understeer. 2 laps later, Moran was close behind when Keithley made a minor mistake running slightly wide. Moran kept right in Keithley's draft and managed to get a stronger run out of the arena section. With Moran on the outside, Keithley squeezed him as much as he could, and the two entered into turn 5 side by side, with Moran seemingly getting ahead. But out of the Ford curve, Moran lost traction and he slipped into Keithley, and both cars slammed into the barrier, sustaining massive damage. Keithley had lost a wheel and Moran was unable to continue, suffering a major blow to his championship campaign. Bono Huis was now comfortably in the race lead, and Jeffrey Rietveld found himself in 2nd, easily ahead of Gergo Baldi in 3rd. Patrick de Wit's strategy looked to have worked well, putting the Dutchman up into 4th place, though 5th place John-Eric Saxon was slowly closing down on him. Mark Orbitz was up into 6th place, but sadly he was yet another driver to breach the pit speed limit, and he was handed a drive-through penalty, dropping him behind Peter Burlak. Taking season win number 7, Bono Huis won the German Grand Prix with a dominating win, pole position and the fastest lap. The young Dutchman now one step closer to securing the 2012 title. Jeffrey Rietveld once again finished on the podium, demonstrating his ability to mix it with the best, and crossing the line in 3rd place, Hungarian Gergo Baldi continued his strong form in his maiden FSR year. Patrick de Wit's strategy helped to put the McCaw driver up into 4th place with a strong run. John-Eric Saxon once again crossed the line in 5th position, and Peter Burlak made an amazing comeback after his first lap troubles to finish in 6th. Despite several minor mistakes, Mark Orbitz still managed to take 7th place. Blair Disley's 3-stop strategy helped put the Silverline driver up into the points, and starting from the back of the grid, Peter Varga drove a strong, clean race to claim 9th position. Making his debut, Tommy Nelson showed that he has the pace to race towards the front, and despite his pit lane errors, he picked up the final point in 10th position. Looking at the driver standings now, and Huis has extended his lead with 25 unanswered points, bringing his lead over Moran to 47 points with just 4 rounds remaining. Rietveld has jumped up into 3rd place on the ladder, with Tali's continued absence dropping him down into 4th. Baldi's great result means he is now a chance to claim 3rd overall in the standings. Patrick de Wit has jumped up into 6th position. Saxon is now in equal 7th place along with Frederick Nilsson and Van Dorn, and Lapjam remains in 10th place. To the constructors, and Precision once again picked up the most points today, extending their lead with an almost certain claim on the 2012 trophy. GT Amiga gained 19 points over Go Speed today, but will no doubt have a fight on their hands to keep in 2nd place. Netrex Grand Prix are now into 5th, ahead of Twister Racing for the first time this season. McCaw remain in 7th, and Faster Than Speed have moved back up into 8th position. The next race will be the Japanese Grand Prix, and you can watch that race live as it happens at SimRace TV on the 30th of September at 4 p.m. GMT. And don't forget to check out the Formula Sim Racing Fantasy League as well as Formula Sim Racing on both Facebook and on Twitter. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I'm Simon Adebisi, and we'll see you in a fortnight's time for the next round of the 2012 Formula Sim Racing World Championship.